Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Shri Bhagavanuvacha Param Bhuya Prabhakshami Jnananam Jnanamuttamam Yagnatva Munaya Sarve Param Siddhim Mito Gata.
Translation: The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "Again I shall declare to you the supreme wisdom, the best of all knowledge, knowing which all the sages have attained the supreme perfection.
Idam Jnanam Upashritya Mama Sadharmyamagataha Sargepi Nopajayante Pralayena Vyatanti Cha."
By becoming fixed in this knowledge, one can attain to the transcendental nature like my own. Thus established, one is not born at the time of creation or disturbed at the time of dissolution.
Mama yonir mahad brahma tasmin garbham dadamyaham sambhava sarva bhutanam tato bhavati bharata.
The total material substance called Brahman is the source of birth.
Sorry, can everybody else hear?
We can't hear.
Yeah, we can't hear. Hare Krishna?
You can't hear?
Now we can, but we just lost you there, Prabhuji. If you could just repeat the
Okay.
translation.
Text 3 translation?
Yes, please.
Translation, sorry. The total material substance called Brahman is the source of birth, and it is that Brahman that I impregnate, making possible the births of all living beings, O son of Bharata.
Sarvayonishu kaunteya murtaya sambhavanti ya tasham brahma mahadyonir aham bija pradapita.
It should be understood that all species of life, O son of Kunti, are made possible by birth in this material nature, and that I am the seed-giving father.
Sattvam rajastama iti guna prakriti sambhava nibadnanti mahabaho dehe dehinam avyayam.
Material nature consists of three modes: goodness, passion, and ignorance. When the eternal living entity comes in contact with nature, a mighty armed Arjuna, he becomes conditioned by these modes.
Tatra sattvam nirmalatvat prakashakam anamyam shukha sangena badnati jnana sangena chanaga.
O sinless one, on the mode of goodness, being purer than the others, is illuminating, and it frees one from all sinful reactions. Those situated in the mode become conditioned by a sense of happiness and knowledge.
Rajuragatmakam vidhi trishta trishna sanga samudbhavam tannibadnanti kaunteya karma sangena dehinam.
The mode of passion is born of unlimited desires and longings, a son of Kunti, and because of this, the embodied living entity is bound to material fruitive actions.
Tamastva jnanam jam vidhi mohanam sarvadehinam pramadalasya nidrabhis tannibadnati bharata.
O son of Bharata, know that the mode of darkness born of ignorance is the delusion of all embodied living entities. The results of this mode are madness, indolence, and sleep, which bind the conditioned soul.
Sattvam sukhe sanjayati raja karmani bharata jnanam avritya tuttamaha pramade sanjate yuta.
O son of Bharata, the mode of goodness conditions one to happiness, passion conditions one to fruit of actions, and ignorance, covering one's knowledge, binds one to madness.
Rajastamascha sattvam bhavati bharata. Rajasatvam tamaschaiva tamas sattvam rajastatha.
Sometimes the mode of goodness becomes prominent, defeating the modes of passion and ignorance. O son of Bharata, sometimes the mode of passion defeats goodness and ignorance, and, and at other times ignorance defeats goodness and passion. In this way, there is always competition for supremacy.
सर्वद्वारेषु देहेऽस्मिन् प्रकाश उपजायते ज्ञानं यदा तदा विद्यात् विवृद्धं सत्त्वमित्युत.
The manifestations of the mode of goodness can be experienced, and all the gates of the body are illuminated by knowledge.
लोभ प्रवृत्तिरारम्भ कर्मणाम् अशमस्पृहा रजस्येतानि जायन्ते विवृद्धे भरतर्षभा.
A chief of the Bharatas, when there is an increase in the mode of passion, the symptoms of great attachment, fruitive activity, intense endeavor, and uncontrollable desire and hankering develops.
अप्रकाशो प्रवृत्तिश्च प्रमादो मोह एव च तमस्येतानि जायन्ते विवृधे कुरु नन्दन.
When there is an increase in the mode of ignorance, O son of Guru, darkness, inertia, madness, and illusion are manifested.
यदा सत्त्वे प्रवृद्धे तु प्रलयं याति देहभृत् तदोत्तमविदां लोकान् अमलान् प्रतिपद्यते.
And when one dies in the mode of goodness, he attains to the pure high planets of the great sages.
रजसि प्रलयं गत्वा कर्मसङ्गीषु जायते तथा प्रलीनस्तमसि मूढयोनिषु जायते.
When one dies in the mode of passion, he takes birth among those engaged in fruitive activities. When one dies in the mode of ignorance, he takes birth in the animal kingdom.
कर्मण सुकृतस्याहुः सात्विकं निर्मलं फलम् रजसस्तु फलं दुःखम् अज्ञानं तमसः फलम्.
The result of pious actions is pure and is said to be the mode of goodness. But action done in the mode of passion results in misery, and actions performed in the mode of ignorance results in foolishness.
सत्त्वात् सञ्जायते ज्ञानं रजसो लोभ एव च प्रमादमोहौ तमसो भवतो ज्ञानमेव च.
From the mode of goodness, real knowledge develops. From the mode of passion, greed develops. And from the mode of ignorance develops foolishness, madness, and illusion.
ऊर्ध्वं गच्छन्ति सत्त्वस्था मध्ये तिष्ठन्ति राजसाः जगन्यगुणवृत्तिस्था अधो गच्छन्ति तामसाः.
Those situated in the mode of goodness gradually go toward the higher planets. Those in the mode of passion live on the earthly planets, and those in the abominable mode of ignorance go down to the hellish worlds.
नान्यं गुणेभ्यः कर्तारं यदा दृष्टानुपश्यति गुणेभ्यश्च परं वेति मद्भावं सोऽधिगच्छति.
When one properly sees that in all activities, no other performer is at work than these modes of nature, and he knows the Supreme Lord, who is transcendental to all modes, he attains by spiritual nature.
गुणानेतानतीत्यत्रिन् देहि देह समुद्भवान् जन्म मृत्यु जरा दुःखैर्विमुक्तो अमृतम् अश्नुते.
When the embodied being is able to transcend these three modes associated with the material body, he can become free from birth, death, old age, and the distresses, and can enjoy nectar even in this life.
Arjuna Uvacha कैर्लिङ्गैस्त्रिन्गुणानेतान् अतीतो भवति प्रभो किम् आचार्य कथं चैतां त्रीन् गुणान् अतिवर्तते.
Arjuna inquired, O my dear Lord, by which symptoms is one known who is transcendental to these three modes? What is his behavior? And how does he transcend the modes of nature?
Shri Bhagavanuvacha Prakasham cha pravrittim cha moham eva cha pandava na deshti sampravrittani na nivrittani kankshati udasina vadasino gunairyo na vichalyate gunavartante ityevam yovatishthati daiknagnen gate समदुःख सुख स्वस्थः समलोष्टांशकाञ्चनः तुल्यप्रिया प्रियो धीरस् तुल्यनिन्दात्मसंस्तुतिः मानापमानयोस्तुल्यस् तुल्यमित्रारिपक्षयो सर्वारम्भपरित्यागी गुणानि गुणातीतः स उच्यते.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, O son of Pandu, he who does not hate illumination, attachment, and delusion when they are present, but long for them when they are disappeared, who is unwavering and undisturbed through all these reactions of the material qualities, remaining neutral and transcendental, knowing that the modes alone are active, who is situated in the self as regards alike happiness and distress, who looks upon a lump of earth, a stone, and a piece of gold with an equal eye, who is equal towards the desirable and the undesirable, who is steady, situated equally well in praise and blame, honor and dishonor, who treats alike both friend and enemy, and who has renounced all material activities. Such a person is said to have transcended the modes of nature.
मां च यो व्याभिचारेण भक्तियोगेन सेवते सगुणान् समतीत्यैतान् ब्रह्मभूयाय कल्पते.
One who engages in full devotional service, unfailing in all circumstances, at once transcends the modes of mature nature, and thus comes to the level of Brahman.
भ्रमणो हि प्रतिष्ठाहम् अमृतस्याय यस्य च शाश्वतस्य च धर्मस्य सुखस्यैकान्तिकस्य च.
And I am the basis of the impersonal Brahman, which is immortal, imperishable, and eternal, and is the constitutional position of ultimate happiness.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Shampriya Mataji. As usual, it was absolutely beautiful. And Krishna Govind Prabhu, I just want to say here a personal thing. When me and my husband first took our steps in the Krishna conscious journey, Krishna Govind Prabhu very kindly took us under his wings, and we will never forget that. It's been almost, I think, 8 or 10 years since we met him, and even today he always guides us with his just sincere service and simple, very, very humble attitude. Thank you, Prabhuji. And of course, Shampriya is a friend. So
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
always together. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Shampriya.
Kumari, Hare Krishna. Thank you for the opportunity. Hari Bol.
Okay. So today I have decided that we will not be using a PowerPoint because we're going to try without a PowerPoint. I just want to share the screen. 1 second. Let me know if you can see the screen in a minute. Yeah, can you see the screen?
Yes, Mataji.
Okay.
Yes, Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much. So, so today we are going to continue with the 14th chapter, verse number 11. Sarvadvareshu dehesmin prakasha upajayate jnanam yada tada vidyat vivridam sattvamitiyuta. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The manifestation of the mode of goodness can be experienced when all the gates of the body are illuminated by knowledge. It's a very short purport, so I'm going to just read it. There are 9 gates in the body: 2 eyes, 2 ears, 2 nostrils, the mouth, the genitals, and the anus. When every gate is illuminated by the symptoms of goodness, it should be understood that one has developed the mode of goodness. In the mode of goodness, one can see things in the right position, one can hear things in the right position, and one can taste things in the right position. One becomes cleansed inside and outside. In every gate, there is development of the symptoms of happiness, and that is the position of goodness. So before we start, I'm just going to chant the Mangalacharan prayers. Om Agyanti Mirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhascha Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Prastaya Bhutale, Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve, Gauravani Pracharine, Nirvishesha Shunyavadi, Paschat Deshatarine. Oh, Krishangi Mataji, there is your hand is raised. Is there something you wanted to say? No?
Oh, sorry, it was a mistake.
Okay, no problem. That's fine, no problem. I just saw the raised hand message coming, so I thought I'll check. Okay. So, sorry, I'm just trying to close the chat. All right. So today's verse, in the last verse, we saw that during different times of the day, the different gunas, the different modes of material nature are prominent. So then the question is, how do we recognize which mode is prominent at what time? So in this verse, Krishna is actually describing how all the gates of the body are illuminated with knowledge. So the interesting thing here is to understand this city of 9 gates. That's the main thing that we understand. So this material body actually is sometimes known as the city of 9 gates. And I'm just going to use a story, and let's see that when we listen to this story, can we understand what we are talking about. So this is a story of somebody known as Puranjan, King Puranjan. I'm sure that a lot of you must have heard the story. but I'm not going to go into the detail of it right now. So King Puranjan, what has happened is that he has departed from the spiritual world because of his misuse of independence, and he's now come to this material world. Now, when he's come to the material world, he wants to enjoy this material world. And for that, he is now looking for a suitable place where he can enjoy. So he is, he's roaming around everywhere trying to look for a suitable place. Eventually, he comes to a place called the Navadwarpur. Okay. And he finds this place very, very attractive. So while he is in this Navadwarpur, which is also known as the city of nine gates, he is wandering around in the various beautiful gardens, and he comes across a very, very beautiful and attractive lady. And because they both are attracted to each other, eventually, they decide to be with each other and enjoy together. So he stays here, he's very happy, very content, and the normal activities he's carrying on, enjoying with the lady, with the queen. He has so many children, he has wealth, and he has everything. But there's a lot of detail to the story, but for our purpose, we don't need to know all of those details. And then eventually, after many years, after he has enjoyed this city, what happens is that this particular city that Puranjan is inhabiting is attacked by a king called Chandvaga. Okay. And Chandvaga attacks this city and he plunders it. And along with Chandvaga comes his daughter. The daughter's name is Kalakanya. She and her husband, and other kings, everybody is attacking this city, and it's in such a bad state. And the whole city is plundered. There's nothing left. All of the beautiful palaces and all the wealth that he had, everything is taken away. And somehow all the objects of enjoyment which used to give him pleasure are completely going stale by the influence of Kalakanya. And eventually it came to a state where he had to leave the city. But because he was so attracted and attached to his wife and his family, even when he had come to a stage where he was in the last stages of his life, and he was going to die, even at that time he was constantly thinking of his wife. And because he was thinking of his wife, in his next life he came in the body of a female. Okay, now this female that he came as, her name was Vidarbha, very beautiful lady. So we are talking, so remember, don't forget, and everybody pay attention to this story because it's very important. So now we've understood the story of King Puranjan. He's left his body, he's now come into a female's body, and the female's name is Vidarbha. Now this Vidarbha, she gets married to a very pious and saintly king, and along with her husband, she performs various austerities. She also serves her husband very, very nicely as a chaste wife would. But the husband eventually, because he is a pious person, he's not attracted to any of these material worlds. So he gives up his life because of the austerities that he has been performing. And now Vidarbha is alone, and she is in distress, and she is crying. And eventually she decides that she also is going to give up her life in the same funeral fire that her husband is in. And at that time, a very old Brahmin comes to her. He sees her in this distressed condition, and he asked her, who are you? Why are you crying so much? And who is this person whose funeral pyre it is? And when she explains everything, at that time, the Brahmana starts explaining to her that, my dear friend, you are not Vidarbha. And this funeral pyre of the king is not your husband. In fact, in your last life, you were not King Puranjan. You were not the husband of Puranjani. And then he explains that sometimes you think of yourself as a man, sometimes you think of yourself as a chaste woman, but this is all because of the body which is created by the illusory energy. What you are, my friend, he says, this old Brahmin, he says that you are not different in quality to me. You and me both are same in quality. And a person who is in knowledge understands this. Now coming to because this is an allegorical story, so now let us try and understand who we were talking about. So actually, Puranjan in Sanskrit means one who enjoys in a body. You see, one who enjoys in a body. So Puranjan actually is the individual soul. Okay. When he leaves the spiritual world, because he has, he is misusing his independence, he's left the spiritual world. When he leaves spiritual world, he is always accompanied by his most intimate friend, and that is Krishna, that is the super soul. So when he is left the spiritual world, yes, he has forgotten who he is, and he has forgotten his relation with Krishna, and that is why he's looking for a suitable body to enjoy, and he enters this city of 9 gates, which is what brings us to today's verse. Prabhupada in his purport is explaining that the city of 9 gates we are talking about, I'm just going to get this verse out, sorry. Yeah, so Prabhupada is talking about that there are 9 gates in the body, 2 ears, 2 eyes, 2 nostrils, the mouth, the genitals, and the anus. So what Puranjan has done, this soul has entered the city of 9 gates, which is the material body. Okay. And then we remember in the story, we said he is roaming around in the gardens, and then he meets this very beautiful lady and he gets married to her, who is his queen. This queen is the material intelligence, right? So what happens over here is that when the soul enters the material body, so the conscious self enters the material body, and then his intelligence, the moment the intelligence takes over, and it kind of covers the pure soul. So when the soul actually left the spiritual world, it was not covered with this this mind and intelligence. Obviously it left because it wanted to misuse its independence, and the false ego was created. If you remember, in our last class, we were discussing that how it is the false ego that first takes shape. And based on that false ego, which is your identity, you get the next body. So if you listen to this story, you will realize further on, and I will speak about that in just a minute. So now the queen is the intelligence. And what we saw in the story, that the soul, along with the intelligence, is enjoying for so many years, has completely forgotten his friend, his eternal friend, Krishna, the super soul, who is with him at all times. And after enjoying for so many years with his various senses, he then eventually, when it is time to leave, and that is where we spoke about King Chandavega. Chandavega is actually time. Chandavega is old age. So when this soul in the body is getting old, it will leave. And then we also spoke about how this, the city is being attacked. So the city, that means this material body, which consists of 9 gates, is being attacked by old age, by time, by fear, fear of death, and all of these factors. But we are still so attached to our various relationships, which are temporary, to our, our home, our wealth, our children. And that is why even when Puranjan was leaving his body, he was constantly thinking of his wife, thinking, what will she do without me? How will she look after all our children? What will happen to her? And that is why in his next life, so see again here, the mood or the thoughts when he was leaving his body. And I'm sure we all will remember the same thing happened with Bharat Maharaj when he was leaving his body. Although he was such a pious king, but at the time when he was leaving his body, his constant thoughts were about the deer. And that is why he came back as in the body of a deer. So we are kind of making our next body, we are preparing it already in this life on the basis of our various karmas, our thoughts, our attachments, our likes and dislikes to various things. And of course, at the end of the day, it is by the desire of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now, what I just wanted to give this allegory because I wanted you to understand how this body sometimes is referred to as the city of 9 gates. In fact, in Bhagavad Gita chapter 5, verse number 13, Prabhupada gives a very, very beautiful statement in the purport, and I will just read that. This verse says, when the embodied living being controls his nature and mentally renounces all actions, he resides happily in the city of 9 gates, the material body, neither working nor causing work to be done. In the purport, Prabhupada says, the 9 gates are mentioned as follows. Navadware puredehi hamso lela yate bahi vashi sarvasya lokasya sthavarasya charasya cha. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is living within the body of a living entity, is the controller of all living entities all over the universe. The body consists of 9 gates, 2 eyes, 2 nostrils, 2 ears, 1 mouth, the anus, and the genitals. The living body in this conditioned stage identifies himself with the body. But when he identifies himself with the Lord within himself, he becomes just as free as the Lord, even while in the body. This verse is from the Svetashvatara Upanishad 3.18. So now coming to our current verse that we are talking about. I use this story so that you would understand what we mean by the 9 gates and how you can remember it. Remember this story when, as soon as you think of Puranjan, Puranjan means one who is enjoying in the material body. So we all are Puranjans, so to say, because we all are in this material body, which has got these 9 gates. So then the question is over here, Krishna is explaining that Sarva dvareshu dehesmin. So in this body, when all the 9 gates are illuminated, when it says prakasha, the quality of illumination, obviously it does not mean literal, but what it means is that with the light of knowledge, when all the gates are illuminated, at that time, vidyat. So it says jnanam yada tada vidyat. Jnanam means the knowledge, and vidyat means know that at that time, that person is manifesting the mode of goodness, right? Now, let's just use a very, very simple analogy to understand this particular verse now. At our front door, we will always, most of us will have a light, especially like, we'll have the lights on right from 4 o'clock nowadays because it gets so dark. So if there is somebody at the door and we switch on the light, we can see who that person is. Is it a friend or is it somebody that I don't know? Or could this person pose a danger to me? So I will shut the door. I will not allow this person to enter the house. Likewise, these 9 gates of our body are the same. If we are aware with the knowledge that is given to us through the Shastras of what kinds of activities, what kinds of thoughts should we perform, what kind of food should we eat, what is the speech that we speak. At that time, then what we are doing is we are illuminating all of these 9 gates with the correct information, with the correct knowledge. And when we have this knowledge, when we are aware of this thing, like when we have a light at the door and we are aware if it is a friend or not a friend, and we can make a choice and take a decision. Same way, if we have the knowledge, then we can make a choice whether I want to let this thought enter my mind, if I want to let this food be consumed by me, right? Or so on and so forth. All of these 9 gates can be then controlled by us, controlled by the mind and the intelligence, because we have the right kind of knowledge. And again, let us look at the example of the tortoise. You see, the tortoise, immediately when it sees any danger or any it thinks that there's going to be any kind of trouble, you must have seen that it withdraws all its senses, right? In fact, in the Bhagavad Gita 2.58, it said, one who is able to withdraw his senses from sense objects as the tortoise draws his limbs within the shell is to be understood as truly situated in knowledge. So this is from the Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna is speaking to Arjuna and saying to him that how we also, although we are in this world, in this material nature, we can withdraw our senses. When we say withdraw our senses, we can't, like the tortoise, obviously take our hands and legs and whatever in. But what we mean is that we can have a control on our senses as to what kind of activities it is going to perform. What is right, what is wrong, what is acceptable, what is not acceptable. So like that, if we are able to control all of these 9 gates, then we will be situated in the mode of goodness, right? So let's just look at what are the things that one can do related to each of these 9 gates. So when I talk about, let's say, eyes, what would you say? What should our eyes be seeing and what should they not be seeing? Please, everybody don't shout out, but if any one person could volunteer and just, give us some thoughts, what do you think?
Hare Krishna, Madhu Kumari.
Hare Krishna, Palika Mataji.
Hare Krishna. The eyes, of course, we see the transcendental body of Krishna as we have in our home as a deity or the picture. That's the first thing we need to have a darshan of that.
Mhm.
And for the nose, we should always smell the flowers which has been offered to Krishna.
Palika Mataji, one at a time.
Okay,
Sorry. Yeah, eyes, yes, you're right. We should take the darshan of Krishna Rupa. We should also take the darshan of devotees.
Yes.
What is it that we should try and avoid?
We should not look at all the material picture which comes on the television, these news, horrible news, which can divert our mind and senses. So that's what we should avoid.
Yeah, thank you. Like I was listening to some lectures, not today, but previously, and His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj was talking about in any city. He was talking about Mumbai, obviously, because he was there. But in any city, we see all these huge billboards advertising so many different kinds of things. And he he was giving, various kinds of example. He was talking about alcoholic drinks and all of that. And he said that the advertisers make you feel that you will enjoy only if you have all these things. So that is an attack on your senses. And that is why if the eyes keep constantly seeing this, then you do get influenced by these kinds of things. And that is why we need to avoid it as far as possible. It's obviously impossible to avoid it completely, but as far as possible.
Thank you.
Thank you, Palika Mataji. What about the ears then? Anybody else would like to volunteer?
Haribol Mataji.
Haribol, Krishnavani, Mataji.
Yeah, Mataji, try to listen to all these, spiritual activities, and try to engage, listening to kirtans or classes, and, associate with the devotees.
Very true.
And especially, try to avoid, like, watching at the films or listening to the film songs, any mundane activities. So that's
And
what-
most importantly, avoid prajalpa, avoid gossiping. And the other to do thing is to listen to the Lord's holy name. So chant and listen, most importantly. So yeah, that's good for years. Thank you, Krishnavani Mataji. What about the nostrils then? I'm like a school teacher today. I'm asking questions. Anybody wants to volunteer? What would you say for the nostrils? What would you think is the right activities to do? We've got 50 participants. I'm sure all of you know about it.
Mataji, smell the flowers of fragrance offered to Krishna.
Correct. Absolutely correct, Puja Mataji. Smell the flowers, smell the tulsi leaves. And I'm sure we know the story of how the 4 Kumaras, just by smelling the tulsi leaves, their lives changed. Right? So that is what our nose should be smelling. And obviously we don't want to, nobody is interested in smelling foul smell or anything. That's of course what we avoid anyways. Then we come to the mouth. Now, what can the mouth be used for, what it should be used for, and what should avoid?
It should be used for speaking sweetly, and no harsh words, things like that.
Very true.
And also chanting, things like that.
Yes. And also tasting Krishna Prasad.
Okay.
So the mouth should be used for tasting Krishna Prasad. And you very, very rightly said that we should not speak harsh things to anybody. It does not matter who they are, but we must avoid speaking harsh things, because that is not the quality of a person who is in the mode of goodness. So yes, that's very right. Very true. Thank you so much. The last two, I'm just going to speak. So the genitals, we all know. The reason in Krishna consciousness we follow the regulative principles, that if you're not able to control sex desire, and that's why we talk about no illicit sex in our regulative principles. So that obviously, comes under that one who is able to control this is in the mode of goodness. And then in the last line, Prabhupada writes, one becomes cleansed inside and outside. So, when your life is regulated, Prabhupada in some of his lectures, he used to talk about how when your life is regulated, your body is clean from the inside also. And that is what it means here. And that way, then all the 9 gates of your body are illuminated by knowledge. And when you are in that state, you will then feel yourself to be, although in this material world, you will feel yourself, or at least that is the goal that we should try and come to, where we feel that we are connected to the super soul and we are not in this material world. And even though we are in this world, we are not of this world. Like how the analogy is given of a lotus flower. The lotus flower, she grows in very bad places, but she is so beautiful. So that way one can be in this world, but not of this world, because we don't belong here anyways. So when we are able to regulate all of these senses, control all of these gates, then we will come to that stage. And then, yes, the question may come that, sometimes we feel that our mind is extremely strong. And, in the Bhagavad Gita, in the 6th chapter, Arjuna says that it is easier to control the wind than the mind. So obviously, it is very, very difficult to control the mind. But then we also must remember that Krishna makes the promise and he says, Yoga Shemam Vahamyaham. So Krishna is saying that I will carry what you lack and I will preserve what you have. So for a devotee, once a devotee takes shelter of the lotus feet of Krishna, then there is always that hope that Krishna is, he's promising that he will carry what we lack and he will preserve what we have. So although we may not be, a great and pure devotees, but we have taken the step, we are taking shelter of Krishna's lotus feet, and we have that promise from Krishna that he will help us. So the main thing is to understand that why life of bhakti has to be disciplined. There has got to be principles that one is following. One cannot whimsically do things. So important to understand this verse that, if you don't control what you're eating, what you are speaking, what you're listening to, your consciousness is affected. Because remember that the soul, which is engaged in this body, the soul's interaction with the material world is through these senses and through your intelligence. So if these senses are not placed in the mode of goodness, then there will always be trouble. Saying that, again, we learned in yesterday's class that all the three modes are always competing for supremacy. So sometimes it is the mode of passion, sometimes it is the mode of ignorance. And that is also in a way important, because if we didn't be under the influence of mode of ignorance, say at night when we sleep, but for a devotee, and I've heard this in a class, that for a devotee, even when he sleeps, it is in the mode of goodness, because he is sleeping so that he can give rest to his body, so that the next day again he is fresh and ready for service to the Supreme Lord. So that is why a devotee can actually cater and dovetail all of these modes also towards Krishna, keeping Krishna in the center. And that is what is important to understand, and that is the stage that we all should try and come to. Because sometimes mode of passion in devotional service is essential. Like when we are going on book distributions, when we are preaching to people, if you're not passionate about what you are explaining, or if you're not passionate about the principles that you are following, sometimes you may not be able to have the effect that you want. So it's not that the modes by in themselves are bad, it is the way they influence us and make us behave. And that we need to be aware of. So I think I will stop here, and I hope I have made some sense of this verse. If there are any questions or comments, realizations that you want to share, corrections, because I have many senior devotees here. Haribol, somebody said something? There's too much of...
Wonderful class, Mataji. Very
Thank
nice.
you, Mataji. Is this Santa Mataji speaking?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you so much, Mataji. Very, very, very nicely. Even I can understand. I am not a very intelligent person, but I mean, it's so nice. It's just very, very beautifully done.
Thank you, Mataji. Krishna gives us all. None of us are intelligent. Whatever we have comes from Krishna.
It's just, I just can't say it in my words. It's so beautiful.
Thank you so much.
Wonderful, amazing, amazing class.
Thank you.
I just love it, and I will watch it again and again.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you.
Yes.
Haribol Mataji,
Yes,
just
Mataji.
one thing.
Tapashi Mataji.
Hi. Is it is it normal that constantly the mode keeps switching when you are in a, like us, like me, when we are in a normal family life, going for job, doing this, doing that, the
Yeah.
mode switches
Oh, yes.
quite often?
Yes. Oh, yes. Constantly. Constantly, there is a fight between the three modes. Constantly. But because we are not aware that it is happening, you don't realize it. But I will give you my personal example. Today, when I was preparing for this class, and because I was reading all this, and then something happened with me, and I could immediately feel that, okay, right now I'm totally under the mode of passion. Totally. And I could feel it just because I was preparing for the class. Otherwise, even though I have heard this, it would not have occurred to me. But honestly, today I could say, oh my God, I am so much in the mode of passion right now. So yes, it does.
And one more thing, and there are constant, what's the right word to use, between intelligence and mind. There are sometimes war, that one is saying
Yes.
that do this because intelligence, because that's what you should do.
Yes.
But the mind, which I don't know whether it's driven by heart more than intelligence, and the mind is saying to do something else.
Yes.
And there are quite often the
Yes.
war between them.
Yes, that's very, very true. In fact, in the Gita, Krishna is saying that one who can control his mind, the mind is the greatest friend. And one who cannot, then the mind is the greatest enemy. So, what you're saying is right, because the intelligence sometimes is saying something, and your intelligence actually tells you what is right or wrong. But the mind is trying to curb the intelligence and say to the intelligence, like, let's take an example. You know that it's nice to wake up early in the morning and chant your rounds. That is your intelligence. You are intelligent to understand that. But then your mind takes over, and your mind says to you at 4 o'clock when the alarm goes off, and your mind says, actually, you know what, today I'm really, really tired. And secondly, I don't have a lot of things to do today. So even if I wake up, say, 1 hour late or 2 hours late, I still can finish my rounds. This is your mind. Although your intelligence knows what the right thing to do is, your mind is telling your intelligence so many other things. If you are not able to control the mind, then obviously the mind takes over. And that is why Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that one who can control the mind is your greatest enemy. Otherwise, it is your one who can control the mind is the greatest friend. Otherwise, it can be the greatest enemy. Hope it makes sense.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent explanation.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from anybody else?
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Just thinking, going back a little bit to Jad Bharat's story. So say, for example, there's a man and he's lived a good life and done some lots of nice good deeds and so, but when he takes his last breath, he remembers his wife or calls out his wife. Does that mean to say that he will be born in the form of his wife?
Premila Mataji, what we need to understand is there are two things. One is that the stories in the Bhagavatam are there to teach us lessons, right? That does not mean that what is exactly happening to the characters in the Bhagavatam will also happen to us. That is one thing to understand. Because obviously, if you read the story of Narad Muni, in his previous life, he was a young child and he had the remnants of some of the great Bhakti Vedantas, and he was in the next life born as Narad Muni. That does not happen to all of us, because what we need to remember is that our karmas are always playing a big, big role, right? So our karmas are playing a role. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, it says in the Bhagavatam, karmana Devi Netrena. So karma and Krishna is watching, Devi Netrena. So finally he decides. So what you're saying that, okay, a person has done, all pious deeds and whatever else. At the last time, if he's doing this, does he take? if a person has been a devotee to Krishna, then Krishna has taken over his life and Krishna will decide what is right for him. You and me may think that taking the form of a female in his next life is actually bad for him. But if Krishna thinks that that is the right thing for him to progress in his spiritual journey, then why not? So for us, the main thing is that, like Prabhupada says, that in the Gita, it says, what you think of at the time of death. But you will only think of something, or you will only think of especially Krishna if you have practiced it throughout your life. So Prabhupada has said, you just practice this. Don't worry what is going to happen afterwards, because a devotee's life, then Krishna takes charge of it. So we don't have to worry about it. Right? I hope that kind of satisfies your question, Premala.
Yes, thank you so much, Mataji.
Thank you. Anybody else? I have a question on the chat from Santosh Mataji. The mind is influenced by Maya, isn't it, Mataji? That's her nature, to disrupt the pure intelligence. So how do we get rid of this disruptive Maya? So Santosh Mataji, what we have to remember is, sorry, I'll just read the question loud for everybody. The mind is influenced by Maya, isn't it, Mataji? That's her nature, to disrupt the pure intelligence. So how do we get rid of this disruptive Maya? So that's the whole point of reading the scriptures, understanding the Bhagavad Gita, because Maya is the energy of Krishna, right? But also what we need to understand is, where there is sun, there is no darkness. So where there is Krishna, there is no Maya. So as soon as you bring Krishna into your life, then Maya will not have any influence on you. Now that does not mean that, I can say that, oh, I am a devotee, so, I am totally like, Maya will not be able to. Prabhupada said, if you sincerely follow everything that I am saying, and if you sincerely follow the regulative principles and chant your rounds and whatever else, then yes, I promise you that I will take away all the difficulties from your spiritual path. We must all ask ourselves a question: am I able to sincerely do this every single day, every single moment of my life? So if I am, then Maya will have absolutely no influence on me. But if I'm not, then yes, Maya will have influence on me. And that is why, as practicing devotees, we are all practicing to come to the stage where, Maya will not have an influence. I am not at that stage, and I'm practicing and I'm praying. And that is why then Krishna is there, he's saying that he will help us at every stage. He will guide us. He will help us from within, from without. We've got our gurus, our acharyas who are helping us and guiding us. So it is an ongoing battle, Santosh Mataji. It is not something that I can say I have won the battle and then I can let my guards down. Battle with Maya is constant. And the armor that we have with us is the power of the holy name. Chanting the holy name, reading the scriptures, that is the weapons and the armor that we have. I hope
Thank
that.
you, Mataji.
Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you very much, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Krishna, thank you. Any other questions? Divya Gaurangi Mataji has given the reference for the verse 9.22. Yes, that is the verse that I used. Ananyas Chintayanto Mam. That's the verse. Any other question?
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna Kanta Mataji.
Sorry, I just wanted to ask about Mangala Arti. It should be done early in the morning, but if one can't do early in the morning, can it be done about 9 or 10 o'clock or 8 o'clock,
I am not an authority on this particular thing. What I do know is that at the temple, we follow the rules of the lordships. So the timings of the lordships are strictly followed.
Yes.
At home, the lordships follow our timing because they are so merciful and they do understand that there are some, sometimes there are some problems in your life, or there is something that, because you can't every day do the same thing for whatever reasons. It could be that somebody has a night shift, somebody works night, somebody does, various kinds of things. At home, the lordships follow our rules. But for Mangalarti, whether we can do it at 8, 9 o'clock, I don't have the answer to this particular question. I can find out and I can get back to you.
Thank you, Mataji, but I do it, every day, but it's not the early in the morning. I want to do it, so I am determined to do it. And then I think, well, it can't be so bad to doing, that time.
I don't know if somebody else would have an answer to this question, like, I don't know, Krishnavani Mataji, Palika Mataji, anybody?
Hare Krishna, Madhu Kumari. There was a class by His Holiness Shivram Maharaj in Wales once.
Mm-hmm.
So he mentioned that in the temple, because of the lordship, the rules are strict.
Yeah.
But at home, it's difficult because we have different way of set up the home.
Yeah.
So he said, but whatever standard you make,
yeah,
you must keep it to the standard. That's what he said. If you can make early in the morning, you just carry on. If you can't make it in the early, whatever time is set up for you, just stick to those rules. He said, if you make it too elaborated, then you can't keep it to that standard. It's best not to make your standard so high. So do whatever you can manage and maintain that. That's what he mentioned on the lecture. Thank you.
That I think even I've heard, Palika Mataji, but in terms of Mangalarti, is it okay to then chant the Mangalarti at a later time? Is that okay? I mean, I think from what your explanation, I think it is okay.
Yeah. I heard other devotees do it not past 4, but later in the morning.
Okay. Thank you, Palika Mataji. Kanta Mataji, I hope that answers your question.
Thank you so much, Mataji. Yes, thank you. Hare Krishna.
Any other questions, queries? It's 10 to 9.
Yeah, I've got a query, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
I was missing you, Jolie Mataji.
Oh, Hare Krishna. I'm just thinking about this statement that I heard a couple of times. We are not Krishna, but not different than Krishna. And we're thinking about identity and quality. Can you just explain a bit on that, please? I'm sorry if it's a bit
that's fine. That's
unintelligent
fine.
question.
No, it is a very important question. I'm going to use the standard analogy which Prabhupada often used to use, and I hope that it'll answer your question.
Okay.
So if you take a drop of water from the ocean, that drop of water, if you taste, it has got the quality of it being salty.
Yeah.
Right? The ocean water is also salty.
Mm-hmm.
Correct? In terms of quality, that drop of water and the ocean water is exactly the same.
Right, yeah.
But in terms of quantity, this drop of water is just one drop. You see? Same way, in terms of the qualities that we have, all the qualities that we have, Krishna has all of those qualities, but we have it in a very, very minute amount. And Krishna has all of it in full. Let's just, talk about, let's say, Krishna. When we talk about the Supreme Personality, we talk about his qualities like his beauty, his knowledge, his strength, his renunciation. There are six different qualities. But let's just talk about, let's say, his strength, right?
Yeah.
I also have some amount of strength. So I have the same quality that Krishna has in terms of strength. But can I say that I am the strongest person in this entire world? Forget about the world, in the entire universe. Forget about the universe, in the entire whole, the planetary system. Can I say that?
No.
So, but I still can say that I have the same quality.
Yeah.
Right? And that is what it is. Like,
but in smaller dose.
Correct. In smaller dose. Like a spark of fire has the same quality as the fire.
Yeah.
A spark of fire cannot do what the fire can do.
Yes,
but in terms of quality, I cannot say when I do an analysis, let's say a chemical analysis of the drop of water, a spark of fire, or some gold, or anything. When I do a chemical analysis or any kind of analysis, even physical analysis, how it looks and whatever else, it is the same. But in terms of quantity, it is not the same. And that's what it means.
Yeah. So in other words, we're part of Krishna. We're really privileged to be part of Krishna.
100%.
And it's what we do about it, what we how we handle it, how we manage it, and
100%. And that is why
what we do about it. Yeah.
That's why Krishna constantly in the Bhagavad Gita keeps constantly reminding us that you are part of me. You are part of me. You know, understand that. Understand that you are part of me. You belong with me. You don't belong here. This place is not natural for you. This is unnatural. It's not the right place for you. Come back to me. That's what Krishna keeps saying, because
wow,
part and parcel of me.
That is pure love.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolute love from the absolute.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you.
You did it so nicely. I mean, this is a nice, simple, easy form to follow. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Madhu Kumari.
Yes, Palika Mataji.
What I really appreciate the way you have explained that how there are 9 gates of body with the Puranjana allegory.
Yeah.
It was really nice, very appropriate, and I love that when in Bhagavatam the story is there, you put it all together and how you connect it.
Yeah,
wonderful,
thank you.
wonderful.
I was thinking whether that's why I didn't, kind of say that this comes in the, sometimes, otherwise when you hear that it's a story in the Bhagavatam, you feel, oh my God, it must be such a difficult story to understand. And it is. And that's why I've not gone into elaborate explanation, because I don't understand it fully. I'm sure you and my other Bhakti Vaibhav colleagues here, Ajay Mukund Prabhu and Vishalini Mataji, you all understand it better than me.
No, you understood it very well, and you put it into the context, to make us understand how the 9 gates work. So that is wonderful application of your knowledge. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Palika Mataji. Thank you. Okay,
you explained it very, very well. Thank you.
Oh, Vishalini Mataji, thank you. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Okay, I think there aren't any more questions or comments, so we can stop here if that's fine. Okay, thank you very much, all of you, for joining and allowing me to speak. Although I don't know much, but you always give me the opportunity, so thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Madhu Kumari Mataji.
Thanks to everybody for joining. Good association.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Lovely.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, very well, nicely presented. The whole class is very interesting. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Very well.
Hare Krishna.